everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Queen Sugar Season 3, Episode 9, which was titled The Tree and the Stone Were One. In this episode, Charley has a sit down with a lawyer about the possibility of the Bordelons having their land taken away from them from the government, and what, push comes to shove, what could happen. And so the guy is basically telling her that they don't have a leg to stand on, and that if the Landrys want that property and the government is involved, then the government is going to take that property, and that they could really lose out. Like if the Landrys offer them money and they refuse to take the money, that they could end up with the property anyway. And so Charley needs to think things over. But if she decides, if something comes up and she needs an attorney, that he's there for her. And the guy looked like an old redneck to me, so I don't even know why Charley was talking to this man and telling him what was going on. Like, where did she find this guy, and who recommended this guy? So I don't know if that was a good move or not. So, of course, Charley's upset, at just the thought, that judges are getting private compensation, from people that are trying to hurt black people in the community, and that, all the judges and politicians and everybody involved is getting their hands greased. They getting money, getting kickbacks, for treating people this way. And she was like, this family, they cheat and steal and bleed black people dry. And, they take everything, and, I'll be damned if I sit back and, watch them do it again. So then we have Jacob. So Jacob calls Charley, and Charley's like, look, I ain't in the mood. I don't want to talk to you right now. Don't call my damn phone no more. And so, he lets her know that, whether she believes it or not, he's on her side, and he says that his mom wants to talk to her. And Charley was like, look, I ain't got time for you. I ain't got time for your mama. I don't know what is going on. And so, he lets Charley know that he's aware that she's found out about the prison plans and all of that. But, there may be a way around it if Charley would just give him a chance and come and sit down and talk to the mama. When Charley gets to the house, they live in this big mansion, and it's, with all the dark colors and cherry wood and all of that good stuff. But Charley wasn't trying to be friendly to Miss Frances. Charley was letting Miss Frances know that this was the last place she wanted to be, that she didn't trust her, and that she was just Sam Landry in a woman's body. And like, say what you got to say so I can get on out of here, because I don't want to deal with it. Charley was basically like, why am I here? So Miss Frances, makes it clear that, she ain't trying to be Charley's friend, but she wants to get Sam Landry. And dang it, if she got to partner with Charley, that's what she's going to do. So she lets Charley know that basically, I want to wipe that smug grin off my brother's face and take control of Landry Enterprises. And she believes that Charley can help push him out and keep him from tarnishing their family's legacy anymore that he's already done. And so she says that the same day I let Sam contaminate our land by housing criminals, thugs, murderers, and thieves is the day our father turns in his grave. So Charley was looking at her, and Charley said, criminals and thugs. Like, you sound just like your brother. And Miss Frances said, I might sound like my brother, but listen, at the bottom line, the end of the day, regardless of how I feel about the people that's going to be in this prison, and I realize most of them are going to be black people, our common goal is saving this land and keeping that prison from being built. So you just going to have to deal with my racism and all of that. she didn't say all of that, but that's pretty much what it boiled down to. So she said that even though, when the father was alive and he was struggling with the business, he always leaned on her for help and for support to keep the company going. But then when the father passed away, he left the majority of the company to Landry. And so she's committed to preventing the jail from breaking ground. But Charley, doesn't believe her and thinks that there's some kind of scheme in here, now that they know that she knows about the prison. And so she has this envelope and she gives the envelope to Charley. And so basically she was saying that, what did she say? So the information was on Colton, which is Landry's son, and how that they can poach his shares. And so she's basically handing Charley the ammunition. And so I guess Charley has to get in good with these other people in order to get their shares and get them to vote in her interest. And then somehow that'll give them, so if her and Charley combine their shares, and then Charley gets Colton and somebody else with their shares, then somehow they'll have enough shares to stop the sale. And so the goal is not to let Landry get any further, but to stop him in his tracks right now so that he can't proceed. And then she had gotten a phone call and she walked out the room, and then Charley, was sneering at Jacob, and Jacob was like, I know how you feel about me, I know what you're thinking, but just listen to what my mom's saying, I trust her. And so Charley was basically telling Jacob that he was a wimp and that he was still holding on to his mama's coattail. Go over to Darla and Ralph Angel, and so they continue to be at odds over the custody of Blue. And I think they were at the high yellow, and Darla said she didn't change her mind. She don't want 50-50. She wants 70-30 custody, and says that she would provide a more stable home for Blue. And so Ralph Angel was looking at her like she was crazy. So, she pointed out that, you working 2 jobs, you still got the farm that you're trying to run. You just can't give him like a structured routine like I could. And then the people online on Twitter, they was kind of torn. Like some people was like, Darla got a lot of nerve. She done been in the crack house. She done abandoned Blue, and Ralph Angel was there to pick up the pieces and take care of him. And then other people were pointing out the fact that no, while Darla was on drugs, Ralph Angel was in prison, because Ralph Angel had served 4 years in jail and Blue is only 7. And remember, Blue was actually being raised by Aunt Vi, and then they signed that paper giving Ralph Angel custody, but they never went before no judge, no social worker, or nothing. So I don't even know how Ralph Angel got custody of Blue, but so Ralph Angel has only been taking care of Blue for like a year or a year and a half at the most. And so people was kind of like, depending on how they saw it, thought Darla was right. Other people thought Ralph Angel was right. So then, Ralph Angel leaves Darla, because Darla basically said she got a lawyer. She gonna fight him. She gonna do whatever she can to make sure her son, she have him for the 70% of the time. And she just being nice to Ralph Angel by letting him have him the 30%. So Ralph Angel goes running to Nova and Charley, and saying how he regrets missing those 4 years of his life, of Blue's life when he was in prison, and he feels as if Darla's trying to take more time from him, but he's not going to let that happen. And they were reassuring him that despite his fears, that they were going to stand with him and battle against Darla. And then they were asking Ralph Angel, like, your name is on the birth certificate, right? And they were going to hire this lawyer and all this stuff to come in and fight this. And so then I got to thinking, so when the show went off, I went to do some research. And basically, if you sign the birth certificate, you are legally the father, whether you're the biological father or not. And if you provide support for the child, and then the only way that they can reverse it is if the biological father comes and says that, no, this is my child. I want this man's name off of my child's birth certificate. I want to be on the birth certificate, and I'm going to provide financial support for this child. And then you have to file a motion with the court, and it still comes up to a judge whether or not to sever the parental rights of the person who signed the birth certificate and give those rights to the actual biological father. And I was like, what? Like, are y'all serious right now? So I don't know if Darla can do that, being the mother. I don't know if she has the right to sever the paternal ties to Ralph Angel, from Blue. So that's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. So then we go over to Nova, and just as she's, got her book coming together and everything, there's a publisher that's interested in publishing just the chapter where she's talking about Ernest and his depression. So Nova's kind of feeling like, do she really want to put that out there? But then the lady was telling her, if you release that part of the story, then you're going to garner interest for the actual book itself, and this is going to be like a win-win for you. So Nova's kind of feeling good, and she need to go ahead and do this because she must be done forgot she done lost that job down there in the newspaper, and once that last check is gone, she really ain't gonna have no money to fall back on. So she needs to go ahead and take this woman up on this offer. So the whole Nova and Remy situation, it done came to a head, and why Nova and Remy then went to some block party, some festival in the park or something. They walking through the park holding hands, and somebody on Twitter said that they know St. Joe is only 6 blocks long, so Charley on one block and then here they is on the next block, and eventually they gonna collide. But Too Sweet's mom was there, and she came over, so Nova introduced Remy. And I'm thinking, St. Joe ain't that big. How she don't know Remy? Like, St. Joe seems like a town that everybody would know everybody, but then somebody else was saying that St. Joe was a parish. So it's basically like, I live in St. Petersburg, but then we have like Pinellas Park, Gulfport, Largo, Clearwater, that are like smaller towns. You cross the bridge and you're in Tierra Verde, then you go a little further to St. Pete Beach. So St. Joe is really just like a smaller community in the bigger New Orleans. So it is possible that these people don't know each other. But it was interesting to see that Nova and Remy seem to be committed to this relationship and keeping it together. And then we had a scene where Nova was trying to roll a joint, and then Remy sitting down at the table when he's like, give me that. And then she looking at him like, well, what you know about that? So Remy let him know he done smoked a little weed back in the day. So he finished rolling the joint and lighting it for her, and they passing the joint. And I'm just like, Remy, I ain't never seen this side of you before. So in this episode, Nova finally has to tell Charley the truth, because I think in the previous episode, or it might have been when she was helping pack up, it was the previous episode when they were packing up Prosper's house, Charley mentioned the fact that Aunt Vi had said that Nova had somebody in her life, and she's like, well, who's this special person? But Nova didn't tell her who it was. So now Nova feels like she needs to go ahead and tell Charley the truth. And Charley had this look on her face like, damn. Like, when is something great going to happen in my life? Why do the people that I love the most always hurt me? And so she basically is not pleased with Nova. But then I got to thinking, since y'all won't tell me that Queen Sugar, it's only been a year since Ernest died 3 years ago. Since it's only been a year, that means that Charley and Remy were only together for about 3 weeks. And that really wasn't a relationship. And then she didn't sleep with Remy. She only kissed him like 2 times. So I'm kind of like, Nova, if you want to date Remy, if you want to go behind Charley, you go ahead. Charley, you got Davis, you got Romero, you got Jacob, you got all these people, running behind you. Let Nova have somebody. But y'all know the people on Twitter was lighting Nova up, telling her she was dead wrong, wasn't no good gonna come to her till she do good by Charley. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this unfolds. So Nova tells Charley, that she's willing to walk away from Remy in order to save their sisterhood. And the next thing we know, I guess Nova then went back and told Remy about the conversation. Before I tell y'all the rest of this story, let me skip back a little bit. So why Micah and them little hoodlum friends of his, remember they had decided that they was going to, in order, their protest of the prison coming to St. Joe was that they were going to go and spray paint the names of think people that were killed by police or something like that on the grass. And then they went to some cabin, and I missed like what the significance of this little cabin was. But they done put these markers in the ground with people's names on it. They done spray painted all on the ground. And then they put some candles or something on the porch and lit these candles. And then they were getting ready to go when the one boy, I think it's the ant boy, realized that there was a book bag on the porch. So I don't know if it was his book bag, his book bag or Micah's book bag, whose book bag it was, but the book bag caught on fire. And instead of them hurry up running over and grabbing the book bag and putting the fire out, they panic, and then they're standing there like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Then all of a sudden you hear somebody yell, who's that out there? And so then they turn and they take off running and leave. And then we have a scene where they are on the side of the road on the back of this truck, and they're talking and everything, and then you can hear the sirens, the fire truck, and the police coming to put the fire out. So now fast forward to the night when Remy comes to talk to Charley and stand his ground and fight for his woman and his relationship. So Michael's sitting there, got on these tennis shoes, still has the spray paint on them. And he's, looking all nervous and petrified and everything. And Charley and Prosper, they all sitting there. Then all of a sudden there's a knock at the door. And then everybody like, oh my God, is that the police? And then Charley goes to the door, but it turns out to be Remy. So now Remy, like I said, he's like trying to plead his case and saying that, Charley didn't want him and he deserves a chance with Nova. He wants to be happy and everything. And I was just like, oh, Remy, you about to get roasted on Twitter. They went in hard on Remy, then they went in on Nova. But Charley basically tells Remy that sisterhood is forever, that Nova is her sister and that will be forever. But as for him, he's just fleeting. Like, just like you came and went out my life in 3 weeks, you will be gone out of Nova's life in no time. So I don't know if Nova and Remy are going to stay together, or if Nova's going to be feeling so bad that it just ruins the relationship. I know in the previews for next week, Vi is basically lighting into Nova and telling her that she done crossed a line in the sand. And I think there might have been a scene with Ralph Angel and Trin where they were all happy together. Seemed like he was telling her something about Aunt Vi wanting to go to that park that they went to. And then there was a scene where Hollywood took Aunt Vi to this place where they're going to have their wedding reception, and it looked like this big plantation or something. It might have been that same plantation that Michael and his friends was out there taking pictures of, and that guy, ran them on off the property, told them they couldn't be there. But it looked like it's going to cost a whole bunch of money. Oh, and then, I don't know how I forgot all this stuff. Then there was a scene where Rollins comes back and tells Aunt Vi, like I said in my last recap, that he probably was researching what lupus was. And so indeed, he researched lupus, realized Aunt Vi wasn't dying. And so he hands her the agreement and tell her that everything is fine, which I thought was a little bit of sloppy writing there, because on the last episode, Aunt Vi never got to the point where she gave him the plans, unless she had given him a copy and she was like trying to read her copy and she was shaking all nervous. But I didn't recall them even getting to the point where she handed him the plans. But he came back and signed whatever it was she had and said he was looking forward to working with her, and his only condition was that if she wasn't feeling well and she was under the weather, that she would always be open and honest with him about what was going on. And once again, and no lawyers looked at these papers, and no business consultant looked at these papers. I don't even think Charley done looked at these papers to let Aunt Vi know if this is a good idea, if this is feasible. But she's happy and she's going with it. And I think at this point that was all that happened on this episode. If I forgot something, please leave it in the comments, and leave any other comments that you have below. Rate the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.